Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. We have an amazing topic tonight. We're continuing in the Shiurim on Sefer Bamidbar. We thank everybody for making the campaign very successful. Baruch Hashem, we hit our goal. If anybody still wants to be mishtatef, we're in the bonus round. Charity.com/MMH, CHARIDY.com/MMH. We're continuing the Shiurim on Sefer Bamidbar, which are generously sponsored by Dr. Zaka Mumishpach L'ilui Nishmas Rav Shlomo Eliezer ben Rabbi Yaakov Zakheim, L'ilui Nishmas Rivka Bas Tovi Halevi, and Rav David ben Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi HaKoyen, B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasen. They should be Melitza Yisharim for the whole family. Ad B'Yas Goel Tzedek. The Shiurim on Sefer Bamidbar are also generously sponsored by Rabbi Isaac Yoselovsky, L'ilui Nishmas, Rabbi Isaac's father, Shabsi ben Yitzchak Isaac, B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasen. The yard site was Tesvav Sivan. Tonight's Shiur is sponsored by my dear friends Aryeh and Michelle Jacobs. Sorry. We got Rabbi Aryeh and Michelle Jacobson. Le'iloi Nishmas Sarah Malka Bas Rab Aaron Olav Hashalom, Rabbi Aryeh's mother. It's the yard site, which will be this Friday, Yud Gimel Tammuz. B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasa. She should be Melitza Yishar for her whole family. For Simchas and Nachas the Kedusha, Ad B'Yas Goel Tzedek. Tonight's Shiur is also dedicated by my friend Reb Joey Baghdadi, L'ilui Nishmas, a young boy who Loyalenu drowned in Deal, New Jersey, Yosef ben Olga. B'Gan Eden Teimenu Chasa. Tonight's Shiur is also sponsored anonymously. We have a very riveting topic tonight. The riveting Messianic Saga of Reb Shlomo Molcho. You may have heard of him, you may not have heard of him. After tonight, you will have heard of him. There's a very interesting halacha in Hilchos Tzitzis. When we wrap our tzitzis, we stick the 4 strings in, we make 8 strings. So you have 4 strings, you stick them through the hole, it becomes 8 strings. Then you make a double knot. Kesher al yoino d'oraisa. That first double knot is biblical. It's midoraisa. But then we have holiest. In between the knots, we have windings. How many windings? There are different opinions. Some say that 7, 9, 11, 13, that's what the Shulchan Aruch says, for a total of 40. But we don't quite do that. We do 7, 8, 11, 13. Actually, when I was in day camp, many years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, and we had a Rabbi Sherman, Rabbi Nosson Sherman's son, and he taught us how to make tzitzis. And he taught us a niggin. The niggin goes 7, 8, 11, 13, 7, 8, 11, 13. So I remember in my head 7, 8, 11, 13. But the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that. Shulchan Aruch says 7, 9, 11, 13. What's 7 and 9? 16. 11, 27, 13, 40. A gematria of 40. What's the significance of 40? 40 is the gematria of Hashem, which is Shem Havaya, Echad, which is 13, plus Hashem himself is 40. That's the inyan of 7, 9, 11, 13. By the way, now you understand, Rashi at the end of Shlach says that we have the mitzvah of tzitzis after the Chet HaMeraglim, so you say maybe there's a connection between the 40 windings and the 40 days the Meraglim spied out the land. Okay, we once spoke about that. In any event, we don't do what the Shulchan Aruch says. Shulchan Aruch says 7, 9, 11, 13. So the Magen Avram brings from the Shla, and the Mishnah Paskins this way, with a Shla Kasav Lasois B'Sheni Ches, not 7, 9, 11, 13, 7, 8, 11, 13. Then you get a total of not 40, but 39. And that's what the Levush writes, and that's what it says in the Kavanoi, so that Rizal. Okay. And by the way, the Mishnah Berurah Paskins that way. I was at a wedding recently, and I saw Rabbi Yisrael Reisman, and I told him about a story. I actually bought a talis not so long ago, and I check it every time I put it on. And after wearing it for, I'm embarrassed to say, some time, I checked it, and when I check, I don't check the 7, 8, 11, 13. I check 2 things. I check the hole. I check the strings right by the hole, and I check the strings below. I don't count the holiest. As long as it looks, one of my holiest was not 7, 8, 11, 13. It was 8, 11, 13. Whoever, and it had every hachshah. I got the best talis. Whatever. It was Anyway, so I went back to the store, and I wanted a refund. They said, you can't get too much time passed. I said, fine. So the guy said, you don't have to buy a new talis. I'll make the strings. I'll wrap it. So I said, fine. I come back. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I come back. I said, by the way, did you tie it lishma? He's looking at me like, what planet are you on, huh? Tie it lishma? Like, huh? What does that mean? I said, did you tie it lishma? He said, yeah, of course. So yeah, right. Now what? Anyway, Rabbi Reisen told me when he was a bacher, the chuliyos were not correct. He went to Rapam, and Rapam said, no, don't waste your time. You should learn instead. In other words, it's not legislated from the Gemara how many times you wrap it. So you try to do it right, but it's okay. Anyway, that's just the Maisa Shahaya. Comes the Magen Avram, and the Magen Avram says, by the way, if you look in the Lechem Chamudais, Siman Memches, he writes that in the tzitzis of Rash Molcho, he didn't have 7, 8, 11, 13. He had 10 and 5 and 6 and 5. What's 10 and 5 and 6 and 5? Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Who's Rash Molcho? Why is the Magen Avram quoting him? Never heard of him. You're not going to see. You didn't see this before, and you won't see it after. Who's Rash Molcho? Rash Molcho is Rav Shlomo Molcho. Who was he? When did he live? What's his story? And this will change your life forever. Okay? Nothing will ever be the same after you hear the story of Rav Shlomo Molcho. Rav Shlomo Molcho was born Diego Perez. He was born a Christian. He was born to Marano parents, so he's already second generation. Okay? He didn't grow up knowing the Aleph Beis. He didn't grow up knowing Shema Yisrael. He didn't even have a bris milah. Second generation Marano. First, he's not an Anus. He's not one of the Anusim. He's the next generation. But he's a child prodigy. He knows many languages. He knows many disciplines. And something is stirring inside him. He knows the secret that he's a Jew. Okay? And he was, as we mentioned, a brilliant child. At 22 years old, he is working in the palace of the King of Portugal. And all of a sudden, one of the most colorful, dramatic, interesting characters in the history of the Jewish people makes his way to Portugal. His name is David Haruveni. Who's David Haruveni? According to Shalshel's HaKabbalah, he was a short man of black complexion and riding a white horse, and he claims to be from Shevet Ruvain. He says his brother back, on the other side of the river in Asia is the king of 300,000 Israelites from the Aser Hashvatim. He is going to lead the Jewish people back to the Holy Land. This guy, David Haruveni, requested audience with the Pope. He told the Pope, I have 300,000 Israelite soldiers. If you give permission, we will join forces and we will liberate the Holy Land from the hands of the Muslim infidels. And we Jews and you Christians, we will work together. But one thing we need to do is you need to give me a haskama, a letter. I'm now going to go to the King of Portugal, and we're going to get him on our side also. So you can imagine this short black Jew who claimed to be the leader of the Aser Hashvatim, convinced the Pope to give him a letter of approbation to go to the King of Portugal, and the King of Portugal went for it. And all of a sudden, this is the environment in which Shlomo Molcho being groomed in, because he's standing in the court of the king of Portugal, and all of a sudden David Haruveni comes riding on a white horse, saying he's here to liberate the Jewish people, to go back to the Holy Land. And there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of secret Jews in Portugal, but nobody would ever breathe a word that the presence of David Haruveni is stirring some kind of hope within them. But David Haruveni cannot contain himself. This is what he's been waiting for. He knew his whole life he was a Jew, and he only wanted to scream out to David Haruveni, I'm a Jew, I want to join forces with you, I want to bring the Mashiach closer, but he knows he can't give up his cover. So he speaks to David Haruveni secretly. And he says, what should I do? I know I'm a Jew, but I grew up as a Christian. I don't know enough Torah. And David Haruveni says, get lost. Why? Don't even talk to me. If the king of Portugal gets wind that I'm speaking to you and I'm encouraging you, then he's going to think I'm trying to stir the Jews out of their Christian cover, and it's going to be, I'm jeopardizing my life. And David Haruveni does not want to talk to him. David Haruveni doesn't want to say anything to Shlomo Molcho. And this is just stirring him further. He was so inspired, and he was such a wise person. And at this point, he had taught himself so much that he already began to receive divine revelations. Nothing short of that. He was receiving divine communication. We'll see. This is not what I'm telling you. Ad kidei kach, there are those who say he had a Maggid like the Beis Yosef. At this point, he didn't even have a bris milah, but he already began receiving, according to some, divine revelation. And he says to himself, why doesn't David Haruveni want to talk to me? Why doesn't he want me to join forces with him? Doesn't he want to bring another Jew closer to Hashem? And he says to himself, it must be because I'm an Aral. One of the things that a lot of the Anusim believed, and those who had this hope for the coming of Mashiach, is that they would only be able to greet the Mashiach if they had a bris milah. Now let's think about this. This is an amazing question. Let's say for a moment you're a Gentile living on a desert island and you want to convert to Judaism. So the Tevila, let's say you find the lake. How do you do milah? 1-800, call Rabbi Kron. He can't get there. Who's going to be your mile? Could you mal yourself? Could a Jew mal themselves? A Jew could mal themselves. Because if I have a question. Could a Gentile, could a Goy give a milah? Of course not. He's not chayiv in the milah. He's not capable of making somebody circumcised. Could a Jew circumcise himself? Yeah. But what about someone who's not Jewish? How could someone who's not Jewish circumcise him? In other words, who's going to give David Malchai a milah? By the way, where in history do we find that someone who is not Jewish circumcised himself? Avraham Avinu.
He was Jewish.
Was he Jewish?
No.
Yeah, he was Jewish. When he got the milah, he was Jewish. So how did he circumcise himself? So this is a question Chassam Sofer deals with in Yardei Siman Shin. And that's the way you can remember this Chassam Sofer is because Shlomo Molcho predicted Mashiach will come in the year Shin. Shin is 1540. It says by Avraham Avinu, question, who circumcised himself first? Avraham or the people of his household? People of his household. It says first Avraham circumcised the people of his house, and then it says Avraham Avinu had a bris milah. But when it says Avraham had a bris milah, it repeats Nimoilu v'chol avdei Avraham Nimoilu itai, had a milah with him. What do you mean had a milah with him? They didn't have a milah with him. They were first, and then he had the milah. Why after? Avraham Avinu first circumcised all the people of his house. Then he did a milah on himself. And then it says all the people in the house of Avraham were circumcised with him. They weren't circumcised with him. They were circumcised first. Listen to this. Says Chassam Sofer, Chiddush Nifla. How did Avraham Avinu circumcise himself? He wasn't Jewish. Maybe there is a machlokes rishonim. Who is the first yid? Klal Yisrael, Matan Torah, or Avraham? But even Avraham, only after the milah. Must be, says Chassam Sofer, in order to do a bris, you have to be a member of the covenant. you can only be a member of the covenant if you accept upon yourself the mitzvah of Milah. As soon as Avraham accepted upon himself the mitzvah of Milah, he was already a member of the covenant, so that he was able to circumcise himself. But what if Avraham Avinu would have changed his mind after he circumcised the people and said, you know what? I don't think I want to do this. Then he would not be a member of the covenant, and he would not have been able to circumcise them retroactively. So first Avraham Avinu circumcised them, and it was a good circumcision because Avraham Avinu accepted upon himself the mitzvah of Milah. But once he had the Milah, that authenticated and verified that the Milah he did on the people was taka good. So therefore it says when Avraham Avinu did the Milah, they were circumcised with him, because their circumcision was only effective once he circumcised himself. So did Shlomo Molcho need to come on to the tshuva, the Chassam Sofer, to circumcise himself? No, because he's Jewish. Right? I tricked you. He's Jewish. So of course he could circumcise himself. The problem is, when do you think he did it? You think he did it in the middle of the day? He probably did it at night. He did do it at night. If you do a milah at night, is it a good milah? If you do a milah at night, is it a good milah? No. No. The Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Reish Samach Beis, you can only do milah once a Neitz HaChama, on the 8th day. Misha'alam Rashachar Yatsa B'Diavad. You could do milah the whole day. Zuiza Makdim L'Mitzvahs. Va'afilu milah shaloi bizmana eina ela b'yoyim. Even milah not at the right time can only be during the day. Says Ramah, if you do milah at night, you got to do it again. You have to do it tafas dam bris during the day. Rabbi Yaakov Emden says we don't paskin that way. We paskin milah shaloi bizmana. If you do it b'layla yatsa, not on the 8th day. Shaloi bizmana. Now the irony here is that Shlomo Molcho had to be going according to the shita of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, and we'll see why that will end up being somewhat ironic.
Why can't we say in the mitzvah saseh, doich saseh?
What's a saseh?
Not to do it at night.
It's not a saseh.
What?
There's no it's not the zman to do.
Milah, he every second that he didn't have it, it was an oral.
Yeah, but it's not a lav.
Every second he's being over at the rice because he's Jewish.
Yeah, but it's not a lav to do it at night. Night is not the time to do milah. It's not.
But the mitzvah of milah should be done.
That's
whatever another time is.
If you do it at night, you didn't do the mitzvah of milah. The mitzvah is to do it during the day. It's not a lav to do it at night. It's not that there's a mitzvah of milah and a lav to do it at night. The mitzvah is only considered a good deed if you do it during the day. It's not anything if you do it at night.
So it doesn't count.
It doesn't count, right? It doesn't count.
So you have to do a milah again?
Correct, okay. Yeah. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says.
How do you do a milah again if you did it?
It's not something anyone wants to find out, but you do hatafas dam bris. They prick, they draw blood.
Again?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, now, the Shlomo Molcho wrote a sefer. It's called Chayas Kaneh. It's about the divine revelations he received and the prophecy he received. So he tells us the story that one day he met David Haruveni in the courtyard of the King of Portugal. And that night I saw a wondrous dream. I was very shaken. And the upshot of the dream is that I was commanded by the heavens that I should make a bris milah. And every day I went to David Ruveni and I said, I saw in my dream I have to do milah, I have to do milah, I have to do milah. I think the reason I'm having this dream is because you came to Portugal. I wasn't having these dreams before you showed up. He said, get lost, kid. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything to do with your milah. So Shlomo Molcho said, maybe he doesn't want to reveal to me anything until I do a bris milah. And the night came, and I did a milah on myself back in the day. I don't know what kind of knives they had, or what kind of antiseptics they had, or says Rav Shlomo Molcho, I bled and I fainted, and the blood was flowing from me like a Mayan Hamizgaber. And that was the end of me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Harachaman, Haroife, Haneman, was Marapemi, Lo Ye'uman Ki Yisupar. So I went back to David HaRaveni and I said, my master, don't hide from me. I did the Milah. I'm a real Jew now. And he says, get out of here. I don't want to look at you. You're endangering my life. If the king knows that we're having a conversation, he's going to think I convinced you to do this. He wouldn't talk to him. Ultimately, David HaRaveni had Shlomo Molcho wrapped up in his arm. We're going to see to the point where David HaRaveni was being offered possibly as Mashiach, and Shlomo Molcho perhaps his prophet. Okay, but let's get there first. Shlomo Molcho then runs away to Salonika. Now you know why I'm talking about this topic. And as soon as he has his Milah, the dreams and the revelations are non-stop. He was told in the dreams to escape from Portugal. David HaRaveni commanded him to leave Portugal. And he hits the road and he comes to Salonika. It's very interesting, from 1492 to 1590, the center of Torah in the world was in Greece. There was no Greece back then. It was all under the empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire, not the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish Empire. And the great Rosh Hashiva then was Rav Yosef Taitachuk. Who's that? Rav Yosef Taitachuk? Rav Yosef Taitachuk was the leading Rosh Hashiva of the time. And Shlomo Molcho comes to learn from Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk. Kemad, all the Chachamim of the time received Torah from Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk. By the way, in that area at the time, you had great people like the Beis Yosef and Rav Shlomo Alkabetz and the Marashdam and the Lechem Mishnah and Rab Levi ben Chaviv, the Mahalbach. So who's this Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk? The Chidah quotes the Shari Kedusha, the Reishis Chachma. Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk for 40 years did not sleep in a bed except for Leil Shabbos and Leil Yom Tov. He slept on a bench with his feet dangling in the air. Okay, so that's the caliber of personality we're speaking about. Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk, in a 24-hour period, he would learn with his Talmidim 18 hours, and he only devoted 6 hours for everything else he had to do. Eat, sleep, anything else in his life was reserved to a 6-hour window. He had more than 20 Talmidim who were Balei Hera, who could have been Rosh Yeshivos. Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk had a Maggid, like the Beis Yosef. Now the Beis Yosef's Maggid was greater, because the Beis Yosef's Maggid was the actual soul of the Mishnah. And the Beis Yosef's Maggid spoke to him in Aramaic. That was the highest level. Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk's, it wasn't the soul of the Mishnah, it was only the Shechina itself. Whatever that means. Why is the Shechina lower than the soul of the Mishnah? And it was in Lashon HaKodesh, so it wasn't as high. Okay? So, now, I want to tell you, I don't care what tzaddik you know, none of them have a Maggid, and nobody's speaking out of their mouth, and they sleep in a bed. So this is the caliber of the Rebbe of Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk, who's the Rebbe of Shlomo Molcho in Nigla, and then Shlomo Molcho became so great in Kabbalah, he becomes the Rebbe of Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk in Kabbalah. And Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk is the Rebbe of Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz in Kabbalah. So if you want to know the greatness of Shlomo Molcho, he's the Talmud of Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk, who had a Maggid on par with the Beis Yosef, but ultimately he becomes a Talmud of Shlomo Molcho. Ad Kedei Kach, says the Chidah, my great-great-grandfather Chesed Avram writes Dvarim Noiraim that the Maggid told Rabbi Yosef Taitachuk. Ad Kedei Kach, you know this, but you're not remembering right now. The Chidah writes in his entry on the Beis Yosef that in the generation of the Beis Yosef, there were 3 Gedolim, all equally capable of writing a Shulchan Aruch. In that generation, the Shamayim understood they needed one compendium to compile all the halachas. And there were 3 people who could have done it. the Beis Yosef Karoi, Rabbi Yosef Taitichuk, and Rabbi Levi ibn Chabiv. And the reason why the Beis Yosef was Zoicha is because Mipnei an v'sanusai ha'aser, because of his great humility. Meaning, not because he was greater in learning. So this Rabbi Yosef Taitichuk is in the, we're saying him in the same breath as the Beis Yosef. He's a Rebbe of Shlomo Molcho, but in ultimately he learns from Shlomo Molcho Kabbalah. So Shlomo Molcho, he made it into the Magen Avram. He has a Chidush and Tzitzis, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shlomo Molcho, learning by Rabbi Yosef Taitichuk, is developing like in an unparalleled way. And he started writing his drashos, and he revealed that Mashiach is coming soon, and everybody needs to prepare. Do you remember when we spoke about Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi of Modena? Who remembers that share? Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi of Modena. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi of Modena's son-in-law writes that Rav Shlomo Molcho suddenly gained Ruach Chachma Ubina Min Hashamayim, a Ruach HaKodesh. Others say that Rav Shlomo Molcho himself was Makabel Torah from Malachi Asharis. He now comes to Yerushalayim. And in Yerushalayim, he spreads the news, Mashiach is around the corner. And the fervor and the commotion that this caused, everybody got caught up. Everyone was preparing themselves. Everyone began to fast on Monday and Thursday because of Shlomo Molcho. Mashiach is around the corner. When? It's coming like in 11 years, the year Shin. 11 years. Somebody would say now, Mashiach is coming 11 years. It's a very long time, by the way, over here. People are fasting Monday and Thursday. The Rav of the city of Yerushalayim at the time was Rav Levi ibn Chabiv. He lived from 1485 to 1545. He was born in Zamora, Spain. He was a Rav in Salonika, ultimately in Yerushalayim. He's the son of Rabbi Yaakov ibn Chabiv. You ever hear of Rabbi Yaakov ibn Chabiv? Rabbi Yaakov ibn Chabiv is the author of the Ein Yaakov. You know what the Ein Yaakov is? That is a collection of all the Agadatas on Shas. He's the father. His son is Rabbi Levi ibn Chabiv. He is furious about this Messianic fervor. He says like this. He said, thank the Ribbono Shel Olam that I was zoicha to come to Yerushalayim, where I've been for 14 years, and I made aliyah, and Hashem gave me two great merits in my life. I'm going to tell you the second one first. The second one is another Rav from Salonika, Rabbi Yaakov Beirav. You know who Rabbi Yaakov Beirav is? The Rebbe of the Beis Yosef. He had an idea based on the Rambam. The Rambam says maybe if all the sages today, there's no such thing as smicha. There's no real smicha. You know that. People want to know, does the rabbi have smicha or not? It's irrelevant if the rabbi has smicha or not. It's not real smicha anyway. The only smicha is v'samach yadai al rosh hapar. Yeah? There's no smicha today. Okay, so maybe you want your rabbi to know a little Yoredeya, a little Isser V'Heter, a little Basar B'Chalav, Taruvais, but yes, it's not real smicha. Real smicha is a status that's bestowed upon a person that can be traced back to Moshe Rabbeinu. It ended in the times of the Amoram. Okay, it ended. The real smicha allows a bezdin to give malchus and to give capital punishment to dan dinei knasais. It ended. So the question is, could it ever come back? Yeah, when Mashiach comes, Eliyahu Navi, who's a Talmud of Achi Hashiloini, is able to. He has original smicha. The Rambam writes a line that if all the sages in Eretz Yisrael agree, they could reinstate the smicha. Now, why do they want to reinstate the smicha? For a very interesting reason. You see, there's so many Maranos in Eretz Yisrael. Somebody who converts to Christianity, it's it's a capital offense according to Yiddishkeit, according to Judaism. It's avodah zarah. So technically, one would be liable to kares. Now, it's not a comfortable feeling for a Jew, even though they had no choice, thinking they have a looming punishment of kares on them. Is there any way to get off kares? If you get malchus, kol hanilkim niftar midei krisasan. If you get malchus, it could exempt you from kares. So they wanted to reinstate smicha, so that the Moranos could get malchus, so that they could fall asleep at night on their pillows. Rabbi Yaakov Beirav actually reinstated the smicha. He gave something like 4 people smicha, including the Beis Yosef, maybe Rabbi Moshe Galante, Rabbi Moshe Matrani. The Malbach fought against this tooth and nail. He said, all the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, you didn't ask me. You didn't ask my opinion. All the rabbis. Actually, first they said if you get the majority of the rabbis. So the Chiddush of Rabbi Yaakov Rav is we only count the rabbis in the land of Israel. We don't count rabbis outside of Israel. Right? What are rabbis outside of Israel? What are they worth? Anyway, the Malbach fought tooth and nail against the smicha, and thanks to him, it never caught on, despite the fact the Beis Yosef endorsed it, and most of the great Gedolim of Tzfas endorsed it. Malbach fought against the tooth and nail. In Shal Suchus Malbach, in the back of the Sefer, there's something called Kuntrus HaSmicha, where he says, no, you can't do it. The other great accomplishment he achieved is at the time of Besurais Hashoitim, Doivrei Shkarim, Tipach Rucham. He says when the report of the fools and who spoke falsehood of the impending coming of Mashiach, everyone was getting caught up, I told them they're out of their mind. If not for me, says Malbach, there wouldn't even be 10 religious Jews left in Yerushalayim. Because everybody got caught up in this Messianic fervor. He said, I saved the Jewish people. Anyway, it's interesting to think about that. Let's continue on. So, in Eretz Yisrael, there's this great Messianic fervor. And we have a tradition that Shlomo Molcho then not only was just speaking about the impending coming of Mashiach, but it seems like he took actual steps to practically hasten the redemption. What did he do? It seems like he gathered 10 people, and they went out into a field, and they imposed an oath on the Samach Mem Aleph Lamed, and they summoned him. And all of a sudden, a snake appeared. Rabbi Isaac, you know how big the snake was? 22 amos long. That's 44 feet. You know how fat the snake was? The snake was 5 amos wide. That's 10 feet wide. That's a big snake. And the snake said, and they chained it up. And the Vayiftach Hanochash es Piv. Now you know why I'm speaking about it. This is connected to the Parsha. Vayiftach Hashem es Pi ha'asayin. God opened up the mouth of the snake. I knew there was a reason I was giving this year. God opened up the mouth of the snake, and the snake said to Shlomo Molcho, what do you want? Why'd you bring me? And he said, Russia! Why are you seducing us? We're going to destroy you! The Nachash deceitfully slithered out of the chains, and Rav Shlomo Molcho cannot bring the Gula. Word got out that Shlomo Molcho used Kabbalah Masis. What's Kabbalah Masis? Not just theoretical Kabbalah, but Kabbalah to change nature. I couldn't believe this. Reb Chaim Vital in the Shari Kedusha writes, by the way, I thought Kabbalah Masis was called Kabbalah Masis because, you do Kabbalah Masis, you turn the guy into a frog. It's practical Kabbalah. It's not just philosophical Kabbalah. No, Kabbalah Maisis is called Kabbalah Maisis because this world is Olam Ha'asiyah. So the Kabbalah that's effective in this world is Kabbalah. Fine. Says Reb Chaim Vital, watch out from Kabbalah Maisis. it's usher to use it. Because if you use it, even if it's good, bad will stick to you. You think you're purifying yourself, you're contaminating yourself. And even if you achieve, it will be mixed with falsehood. We don't have the para aduma anymore. And without the para aduma, we're tamei meis. The klipos are going to stick to us. Stay away from Kabbalah Masses. You're going to contaminate yourself and you're going to go into Gehenna. And even in this world, our tradition is, if you use Kabbalah Masses, either you become poor, or you come poor, your children, or you get sick, or your children, or you convert to another religion. So next time you go to a guy, no, sorry, stay away. We don't do that stuff. Even if it's good, it's not good. Says Rav Shlomo, Rav Chaim Vital, you want case in point? Rabbi Yosef Dilaraina. You ever hear of Rabbi Yosef Dilaraina? Look him up. Okay, now. Rabbi Shlomo Molcho, they use Kabbalah Masses, v'nevdu min ha'olam. They were destroyed. Why? There's no good in it without bad. Rabbi Yaakov Emden also speaks very critically about Reish Shin Mem. Wasn't sure who that is. Reish Shin Mem. But that is Reb Shlomo Molcho. He says he gives a few examples of personalities who use Kabbalah Masses, v'zulasam hamishtamshim b'hashbois v'Kabbalah Masses pisoim avru v'nenashu. They're immediately punished. Anyway, so this is a pretty scathing accusation. We know that Rabbi Yaakov Emden was very outspoken even against great people. That we know. But for Reb Chaim Vital to write this about Shlomo Molcho, that was a little bit of a shocker to me. Because even though Reb Chaim Vital speaks so vehemently against Shlomo Molcho, the Beis Yosef held Shlomo Molcho in very high esteem. So it's somewhat of a mystery of this personality. Let's take the story a little bit further. All of a sudden, Shlomo Molcho decides to leave Eretz Yisrael. Could it be that he wasn't getting good vibes from Reb Levi ibn Chabiv? Maybe. But something else happened historically. And that is, the German Caesar conquered Italy. And now Rome was overtaken. And one of the big theories of Shlomo Molcho is that Mashiach will reveal itself in Rome. And actually, this is not a theory of Shlomo Molcho, it's a Beferish Gemara. The Gemara says that Mashiach will reveal itself in the city of Rome. And we'll learn that soon. So, his friends back in Salonika are taken up with this Messianic fervor. They ask him, please send us some of your drashos, some of your speeches. And he in fact pens an amazing work called Sefer HaMafayar, which was published in Amsterdam. And it predicted Mashiach's coming in 11 years, in the year Shin, 1540. And he said, just hold on just a little bit longer. Mashiach's on his way. I've got good news to tell you, that Mashiach's on his way. It's only going to be 11 years. Now, to me, this is out of this world. Because it's hard to know, these Svarim, are they accepted? Are they not accepted? The Chidah does not bring them in his list of Svarim, nor does the Chidah bring Shlomo Molcho in his list of Gedolim. But the Seder HaDoros of Rabbi Chiel Halpern, who the Chidah says was a great Talmid Chacham, does bring these Svarim in the list of Svarim. Shlomo Molcho had an unbelievable understanding of what will unfold when Mashiach comes. And he disagreed with David HaRuveni about this, even though he writes that he is enslaved through his master, David HaRuveni. David HaRuveni felt Mashiach was going to come through military might, and Shlomo Molcho says Nothing will bring about Mashiach through war, because Hashem will not bring about anything ella b'kelim tahirim, only in pure vessels, only with shemos of Hashem. He says v'hamulchama loitia b'klei zayin ella b'shmesh hakadosh. In other words, he says there's going to be a melchemes Gog uMagog between Gog and Magog, but we're out of it. The Jews are out of it, and then we come in, and Mashiach will be heralded without any war. That's the opinion of Rabbi Shlomo Molcho. He also believed that Mashiach will reveal itself in the streets of Rome. Take a look at number 20. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Vehecha Yasiv. Where does Mashiach sit? Apischa de Karta. By the entrance of the city. Which city? Says the Gra, you have to change the Girsa. Take out the word Karta. By the way, you see this Gra? I magnified it 400 times. Seriously. I put on the copy machine 400 times. Nimchak tevas de Karta v'nichta b'tzidai de Romi. Mashiach will come in Rome.
Why? Any reason or any?
That's the seat of Esav. That's the seat of the church, the Vatican. So, to show them, the truth. By the way, the Midrashim say, that Gemara, says, Umay simane, what's the simon of Mashiach? Yasiv beinei aniyei soiv lechalam. He sits among the poor, the ill, the sick, the homeless. Maybe today it could come in Manhattan. Maybe it's a good thing what's going on. But anyway, Shlomo Molcho now moves from Eretz Yisrael. He moves to Rome. He parks himself in the gates of Rome, and he sits among the ill and the poor for a long time. And he's, so to speak, grooming the Jewish people to anticipate the coming of Mashiach from this location. Now, is it him? Is he the one? Is he the one? Now, word spreads that this former Christian reverted back to Judaism. Now, that's a capital offense. Once you're baptized, you can never revert back to Judaism according to the religion. If they catch him, he's done. He's dead. And he's apprehended by one of the officers of the Pope, and he says, is it true that you denounce Christianity? And to the astonishment of the Jewish community, he says with pride, he now understands Judaism is a true religion, and Christianity isn't true, and now his life is on the line. Bottom line is, he parks himself in the streets of Rome. He sits among the poor, the homeless, the ill, as if to show himself that he is the Redeemer of the Jewish people. Now, there is a lot of discussion. Did he really say he is the Mashiach? Could he have, if he's mentioned in the Magen Avram? Is that an automatic, in other words, does that automatically disqualify somebody from being mentioned in a Magen Avram if they said that he's Mashiach? Let's look at a few Mekaymis. Because it's printed in the Hakdama of the Sefer Chayas Kana, which are the divine revelations of Shlomo Molcho. 9 defenses for him. He was a Goy Natzim. He became the Rebbe of Rabbi Yosef Taitachak. He never said he was Mashiach. He never changed and deviated one iota of any mitzvah. There are many cases in history where false Mashiachs said you don't have to observe certain mitzvahs anymore. Shivasa B'Tammuz, we know Shabtai Tzvi abolished Shivasa B'Tammuz, abolished Tisha B'Av, abolished many mitzvahs, and so did many false Mashiachs. He only upheld the halacha. He united Klal Yisrael. He inspired Klal Yisrael. On the other hand, if you look in the Sefer Shalshelas HaKabbalah, do you know the Sefer Shalshelas HaKabbalah? Rav Gedalia ibn Yechia. Now it's a traditional work of history that many Gedalim quote. The Chida writes many times it is an unreliable source. He's not happy the Seder HaDoros quotes it. Chida writes many times not reliable. But the Shalshelas HaKabbalah he describes David Haruveni very interestingly. Like we mentioned, he's a short man, he was a black complexion, and when he appeared before the king of Portugal, he inspired Shlomo Molcho to reconnect with his Judaism. And even though Shlomo Molcho was born in Arel, he hadn't learned Torah, but he became a great darshan for the Jewish people. Torah shebechsav, Torah shebal peh. Drashos that we've never heard this quality in our whole history. And he said he had a malach. Says Shalshel Zakabal, v'haya oimer hayoisei mishluchei Mashiach. What does that mean? He's one of the agents of Mashiach. That's interesting. That's a new one. Now, so according to Shalshel Zakabal, he was an official agent of Mashiach. You know, he said, "Can we see your card?" You show him the card. There's a little decal. They put it on the scanner. He was an agent of Mashiach. By the way, if it would just be Shalshel's HaKabbalah, maybe you say it's not reliable. Seder HaDoros, or Rabbi Chil Halperin, quotes this word for word that he claimed he was from the agents of Mashiach. Now, is that alone problematic? I mean, you know, we're all working for Mashiach. We're all trying to bring him closer. Everybody's trying to bring the Geula closer. I mean, we all try to do that. No, I mean, we do mitzvahs, we do masim tovim. We're trying to bring Mashiach. But it's one thing to try to bring Mashiach. Another thing if you have an official capacity as an agent of Mashiach. But in the Sefer Divrei Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Sambari, he writes that Shlomo Molcho not only was an agent of Mashiach, but he said he is Mashiach. Which would be pretty amazing that despite that, he's brought in halacha of an approach to how to tie tzitzis. Rabbi Isai, this will conclude the first segment of the amazing riveting account of Rav Shlomo Molcho. Next week, Tuesday night, we're going to speak about the ultimate end of Shlomo Molcho and how the Gedolim viewed him upon his demise. He only lived 32 years. He passed away in 1532, 32 years. So here's an individual who is Moiser Nefesh to come back to his roots. He literally almost died doing a milah. We learned the Shita L'Chsam Sofer that if you're makabel upon yourself bris milah, that kashers you even to give yourself a bris milah. B'diavad, if you do milah at night, shaloi bizmanoi, the Yavit says, not like the Ramah, that it's your yoytze b'diavad. Shlomo Molcho learned by Rabbi Yosef Taitachak, and when he came to Shalayim and he started the Messianic fervor, the Rav Levi ibn Chabib, he cut it in its tracks. He then goes to Rome, and that's where the story will continue, Be'ez Hashem, next week, in the gates of Rome. Hopefully, in the meantime, we will hear good news from those gates with the coming of Mashiach, and then, you'll never hear the end of the story. Have a good night. Yeah, next week is Tuesday night, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, between Mincha Marav. It will be on Zoom as well. Okay, Hatzlach Rab, everyone.